Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of It's Not Luck with your host, Nicola Charlotte, mindset coach and business strategist for women who want to turn their dream life into their real life. I work with female founders, entrepreneurs, women in corporate who have big ambitions, who are high achievers, and who want to hit their goals feeling at their best. Welcome back if you are a returning listener, and a big warm welcome if you are new here. It is Thursday morning when I am recording this. I'm off to Florence tomorrow for a long weekend, Friday to Monday. So actually, by the time you listen to this episode, I would have been to Florence. But yeah, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a good week, a good day, whenever it is that you are listening to the episode. We've had a lovely long Easter weekend. So it's been so nice actually to have 4 full days fully switched off from work. I had an Instagram detox and didn't use the app for maybe 2 or 3 days, which was so nice. And yes, I definitely found myself reaching for my phone. But what I did is I put it in a folder, like 4 swipes along on my home screen. So before I even reached to kind of try and get into the app, I was like, no, scroll back. So it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's nothing revelationary. And I will definitely do it more consistently, but it's just nice to, have time really to disconnect, spend time outside. It was my husband's birthday. We saw family, had a barbecue, went on a lovely long walk out in the countryside, tried out a great new restaurant in London. If you are in London or coming to London, the restaurant was Botarga. I think it's Bottarga on the King's Road. And it's like Greek food, but sort of sharing dishes. We sat up at the counter and it was really, really lovely on a Monday lunchtime. So feeling very fulfilled and re-energized and now off to Florence. So all is well with me. I hope all is well with you as well. Today's episode, we're going to be diving into thinking differently versus doing more, and identifying a couple of the tiny habits that have really created a big difference for me that I think it's so easy to overlook. This idea that the big success comes from doing the big things and the big, bold actions. And actually, rarely is it about doing more. It's about thinking differently. And I say this a lot to my clients because there's always the temptation when you want to make more money or work with more clients or, grow your business, that it's a case of doing more. And yes, of course, there will be elements of bringing in a new strategy or bringing in a slightly different offer to kind of help bridge that gap between where you are now and the high income months that you want to earn. But actually, a lot of the time I see it's about doubling down on what is working and coming at it from a different perspective, choosing a different way of thinking or reframing thoughts in your mind that allow you to show up in a slightly different way. So that's what we're going to be delving into in this conversation. And if you're someone who feels like you need to do more, push harder, chase louder to feel like you're making that progress or feel like you're getting to your goals, then girl, you and I need to talk. And I'm here today to remind you, friend to friend, peer to peer, that it's not about those huge shifts that are going to suddenly unlock, double your income, or that's going to allow you to work 3-day weeks versus 5-day weeks, or that's going to see you working with those dream brands that you're, vision boarding on at the moment. Because I can say from my own experience that a lot of the biggest shifts that I've seen haven't come from huge, complicated strategies or really flashy moves with big investment behind it. They've come from unsexy habits, for lack of a better word. It's the mindset stuff, the things that no one sees, but that really does change everything. And it really links back to this myth of doing more, i.e., the more I do, the more successful I'll be. The more hours I put in, the more money I'll make. The more time I'm spent at my desk, the better chance I have of landing the promotion or getting selected for that opportunity, And I was definitely in that camp, like so much so. And I even caught myself yesterday thinking, oh, should I do another hour's work? Because my husband was working late. It was 6 p.m., maybe 6:30. I'd been working since about 8 and hadn't had like a full lunch break. Yeah, of course I'd stopped working throughout the day. I was not working solidly 6 till 8. 8 till 6. But I was like, oh, I could just do another hour's work. I was like, no, I don't need to do another work. Like, I've done everything on my to-do list today. I've had a really productive day. I've got everything done. This is my time now to switch off and relax. And I used to be someone who started Mondays with like massive to-do lists and like a lot of pressure to have like the most productive week ever every single time. And from the outside, yes, I looked super productive, but it got to a point where it was too overwhelming and it was unsustainable. You know, I experienced real burnout in the first kind of year or two of running my business because I had this mindset that I needed to be doing more, that I needed to be putting in more hours, that I needed to be working on the weekends without realizing that my energy was not being recharged in the same way that it was being used. So no wonder I then felt exhausted and couldn't think creatively, didn't feel inspired to create content. It was very much like ticking things off on the to-do list versus feeling really like in flow and aligned with what I was creating. And another way that this showed up, which in the time I didn't realize, so I'm saying this to help you maybe identify this in your situation as well, is constantly checking socials, like switching tabs, flitting from my emails to my Instagram, then back onto my TikTok, then over to my client messages. And I was never really present in one thing that I was doing because I was like, this idea of like multitasking felt to me like a secret hack to success. And actually, spoiler alert, multitasking does not work. Single focused tasks is where we see the biggest growth because we're giving our all to one task at a time. So it wasn't until I slowed down, got really intentional, and created specific habits around my mindset and things like my boundaries that enabled me to see real growth, which is why I'm such a big advocate of morning routines. And actually, I was speaking to a client about this the other day, and she said, I prefer using the word rituals because it seems more wholesome. It's less like structured. So if rituals feels more aligned with you, please use that word. Like, they're kind of interchangeable in my mind. The whole point why we have these is to help us be present, to help us be focused, to help us connect in with, okay, what am I putting my time and energy to today? How's my mindset feeling? Am I feeling low energy? Is there self-doubt coming up? Are there unsupportive thoughts that I haven't kind of tended to? If we do this on a daily basis, then we're going to allow ourselves the chance to let go of the unsupportive thoughts, to recognize that we need to reach out for help, to say, actually, do you know what? I need a bit of a slower morning today because my energy's not quite there. These are the types of habits and behaviors that create long-lasting success, not the let me invest in a overly expensive new course that's going to give me the answer. Because oftentimes the course will help us, or the program will help us, or the podcast will help us, like all this consumption. But if we don't have the headspace to digest it and then the ability to implement what we're learning, then that money, that time is once again wasted. So the things that we want to be putting our attention to, those unsexy habits, that is very much the intentional work versus doing more, and like productivity versus being busy, are things like mindset reps. So when you catch yourself overthinking, catastrophizing, hypothesizing about what might happen or why it hasn't worked, or what if no one signs up, or what if I don't get selected for the promotion, it's reframing that. It's creating safety in your body. It's saying, actually, what if I do get selected? What if this is better than I could ever imagined? What if this is the breakthrough that I've been waiting for? And the consistency piece. I'd say consistency and persistency, because persistency is showing up even when you're not seeing the results. And it's acknowledging that you might need to make changes to your routines, your habits, your rituals. And it's showing up even when it's boring, even when you're not seeing those results, because you know that what you're doing is taking you further down the line. You know the way that you are showing up is in alignment with the version of you in the future that you are working towards. And it's self-trust, making decisions before the proof, without needing permission, knowing that your vision you are capable of achieving, and showing up even if the results aren't there yet, which is hard because that's when we say, oh, well, I'm not motivated. But I think I said in my last episode, motivation is an emotion. So if we're waiting for it, then it's no wonder that we're not seeing the results. We can't wait for things like motivation. We have to use that discipline to show up, that mindset that says, I am someone who shows up regardless of not seeing the results yet. I am someone that gets up at 6 a.m. to give myself the time for empowering and abundant and nurturing morning routine because I know that sets me up well for the day. I am someone who doesn't make excuses. We create an identity. That's part of this mindset reps, these like unsexy habits that no one else sees. People don't see that version of me on Instagram. I'm sharing it with you here on YouTube or on podcast, depending on where you're listening or watching. But this isn't stuff that I film every day on my Instagram for people to see. This is just inner work that I do, knowing that that's how I can put myself in the best position possible to keep creating success in my business. And then finally, it's boundaries, especially energetic and digital. Your output reflects what you protect. And what I mean by that is our energy is not an infinite resource. We have to nurture our energy. So it's being mindful of, where am I putting my energy? Who am I giving my energy to? What's draining my energy that isn't serving me? Things like scrolling mindlessly, things like looking at your emails before you've even got out of bed, things like not switching off over the weekends because you feel like you need to keep working. That's a lack of boundaries, which in the long run is not going to serve you. Now, there may well be times here and there when you have a big project for work or you're preparing for a presentation or a workshop that you do have to work slightly longer hours. I really do believe that is necessary, but that should be an exception, not the rule. And with digital boundaries, it's like, how much time are you spending on these apps? Are you consuming mindlessly, or are you using that for inspiration and then kind of closing them down and going away and doing your own thing? So those are some examples of the kind of truths behind the greater success that I imagine you're aspiring for. So let's break these down into some of the tiny habits that really help change things for me. Those unsexy, but so transformative shifts that I made to the way that I show up, my kind of non-negotiables, the pacts that I made to myself. And I like using the word pact because it's a pact with yourself. If you make a pact with a best friend, with your partner, you wouldn't want to break that. So we don't want to break these either when they are specific to us and ultimately our happiness and our fulfillment. These are the kind of things that no one's clapping for, but that really build momentum if we can be consistent with them. So for me, daily journaling. I do this Monday to Friday as a non-negotiable. I don't always do it on a weekend. I don't really know why, to be honest. I probably could, but I find Monday to Fridays is the time that I'm working. So it's the time that really helps get me into a headspace of being super intentional with where my mindset's at, acknowledging the wins, writing my gratitudes, writing affirmations or mantras. This is me rewiring my mind to success, to the opportunities, to the momentum that I'm building, to the future that I'm creating. And it means that every single day I'm reconnecting to my vision, noticing thought patterns and reframing unsupported beliefs or untruths that I might have picked up from the day before, narratives that I have created in my mind that I'm now identifying and saying, hang on a minute, that's not serving me. Let me choose a different way of seeing this. The long-term impact of this is things like emotional regulation, self-belief, clearer decision-making, greater sense of I can make my big goals happen. And I am so capable to achieve that. And it means that when I show up in my business later on that day, whether it's in the DM, speaking to people, on discovery calls, creating content, it really comes from a place of I fully believe that this is possible for me. And it is, because I've already seen the results. I've already hit the a lot of big milestones that I set out to achieve, and even ones that were way bigger than I ever imagined would be possible, opportunities. I'm working with a corporate client at the moment, and I'm working with one of their heads of teams. And we worked together for about 6 months now. And her manager has seen such incredible change in her performance, the way she shows up, the way that she leads. She's got a promotion to this head of team role, that he's now wanting me to come in and coach other female talent in their company. And I put together a proposal on Monday for 3 to 5 women to coach. That's a huge proposal, financially. And that seemingly came out of the blue, but it's also not out of the blue. It's because I have put in time and effort with this client. I've checked in with her manager. I built up a relationship. I went in to deliver a workshop for them around International Women's Day. So though that's a way bigger than I could have imagined opportunity that's kind of suddenly fallen into my lap, which would be game changing for me financially. So it's those things that when we're doing daily journaling, daily check-ins, we're reconnecting with our vision, and we keep reminding ourselves of what's possible. And we keep giving ourselves that kind of pep talk to say, keep showing up, keep doing the thing, keep taking bold action. The next habit is boundaries with tech, which I've kind of alluded to. But this looks like no phones first thing. When my alarm goes off, I don't open my Instagram and scroll through my Explore feed. I don't look at my emails. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect, absolutely not, but I'd say 9 times out of 10, I 100% adhere to that. And it means that I'm not giving away my energy, my headspace to external things. I'm protecting my mind almost before I'm giving it to anyone else. But it's also boundaries with, and I try and do this quite a lot, and I actually really enjoy it. When I'm on a bus or train going somewhere, I just sit and look out the window, or listen to people's conversations, or people watch. And it's learning to sit with silence without having to constantly be consuming, be scrolling. And I am always baffled when I'm on public transport. I look around, and honestly, 9 out of 10 people are on their phone. Scroll, 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 not even looking up, not even taking anything in. And for me, that's such a precious time for me just to be present, to look out the window, to sort of watch the world go by. And I really enjoy it. But I think so many people actually can't sit with silence or boredom or with their thoughts. And the long-term impact here is greater focus, more originality in thoughts and thinking, because you're not consuming as much. So you have time and space to think of your own ideas and get creative in your own terms, and confidence in my own voice. It's knowing that I don't need to be filled with other people's voices, opinions, thoughts, and actually I can create my own style. And I think in my work as a personal, a service-based business, working with individuals, I need to carve out my own voice, have my own personality, my own way of explaining my methods and talking about my strategies, because that's one of the reasons why people choose me over the tens of thousands of other business coaches out there or mindset coaches. So it's thinking about things like that. And are you giving yourself space to think originally, to get creative, to cultivate your own thoughts? And then the third tiny unsexy habit, are tracking my wins. Every single day in my journaling, I will write down 3 wins. They don't have to be huge. They don't have to be financial. They can be very menial. And it's the micro wins, the macro wins. It's whatever you are wanting to acknowledge as a win. And I can guarantee you will have 3 wins every single day. And I do it from the day before. So it could be something as simple as there was my favorite seat in the coffee shop when I went to work at the coffee shop, to I managed to, go to the post office and return my parcel, and there was only a 2-minute queue versus the usual 15-minute queue. Or it could be an amazing proposal or landing a promotion. So the reason why we do this is because it literally retrains your brain to look for what's working, to focus on the things that are already going in your favor versus the thing that isn't. Because there'll be 10 things that are going well and one thing that isn't, yet our brain naturally wants to default to that one thing that isn't. So we need to retrain it to focus on what is already working for us. This builds resilience, motivation. It builds up evidence when imposter syndrome starts to come in. We have a lot of evidence to say, hang on a minute, look at all these wins. And if we do 3 wins every day for 5 days, that's 15 wins. So when one seed of doubt comes in, we can revert back to the evidence versus the beliefs. So let me know, what are some of your tiny unsexy habits? Feel free to comment below if you're watching on YouTube, or send me a DM over on Instagram at Nicola Charlotte Coaching. What are some of these tiny habits? And maybe you want to pinch one of mine and start using it as well. And I think what this ties nicely to, and this is naturally very common with high achievers, with women like you who are super ambitious and have big goals, is comparison. And I wanted to mention comparison because it's cropped up a little bit with some of my clients at the moment who are seeing other people kind of in their niche seemingly doing much better than they are. Now, we know that Instagram or social media is a highlight reel. We never know the full story. But with comparison, the question that I always come back to, and I say to my clients, obviously from a place of love and kindness, is what are you gaining from it? Comparison literally does no favors. It feels like something that is going to sort of help us in some way, that's going to like give us some insight or some clue or make us feel better. But honestly, it never does. So next time you notice yourself comparing to someone else, whether it's a friend, a sibling, someone in your team, what am I gaining from comparing myself to this person? Is it protecting you from trying to do something, from being seen, from failing? We're all in our own lane. We're all working towards different goals. We all have very different visions. Yes, okay, we might share a same vision of wanting to make more money, or wanting to have more freedom, or wanting to work with X brand or land X role. But we're on our own lanes with different expertise, with different experience, with different styles, with different energies, different personalities. So there really is no point in comparing. The way that I stay focused on my lane are with some of these things like those tiny habits, boundaries around tech, so I'm not scrolling and comparing. Journaling, so that I'm focusing on my goals and reconnecting with my vision, so that I'm showing up and taking action that aligns with that vision, not someone else's. And it takes discipline to hold your energy when other people are rushing from one thing to another, when they're copying and recreating and whatever. There is enough for everyone. And that's the thing to come back to. There is enough out there for everyone. There's enough opportunities, there's enough money, there's enough jobs. There really are. It's just a case of what you're choosing to believe and the stories that you're choosing to tell yourself. Which leads nicely on to the kind of final part of this conversation I want to talk about today, is thinking differently. Thinking differently versus doing more. It's such a powerful kind of reframe, I guess, because high performers, ambitious women with big visions, visionaries, often default to more being the answer, more hours, more tasks, more strategy, more. But the real shift comes from when you start thinking differently. And it's such a powerful realization, because what that often comes down to is creating space to come up with these different thoughts, not by doing more research, by consuming more, by signing up to more courses, by going to more networking events. Yes, of course, those things help in moderation, but it's giving yourself the opportunity to think differently. What's a different route I could take? What's a different perspective I can choose here? What's a different way that I could create this piece of content? What's a different way that I could launch next time that would feel more easy? One of my clients at the moment has just had an incredible launch. She's had over 60 signups for a workshop, and her previous launch, which was her first launch ever in business, was I wouldn't say a complete flop, but it did not go to plan as she would have hoped. It didn't create the same success that she was imagining. But more importantly, it felt very heavy. She was very much in her masculine. It was pushing. It was like, I need to do more. I need to show up more. I need to post more. I need to speak to more people in the DMs. I need to more. That left her feeling exhausted and without the results that she was hoping for. We learned from that. We refined, we reflected, and we created a strategy off the back of that she has said has felt so easy. There's no pressure. It's all organic. People want to sign up. She knows exactly what to say. It feels easy. And she's had over 60 signups, all organically through Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. And she's like, I don't even need to feel like I have to talk about it every day. It's just people are just signing up naturally because it's coming from the heart. It feels so aligned. And that's because she created the space to think differently. We tried one strategy. It didn't work. We didn't know how it was going to work for her because it was the first time she'd launched. So it was a learning. And she picked herself up. She introduced new habits. She's like, I'm not going to work over the weekends anymore. I'm going to connect. I'm going to focus on building relationships, speaking to people. And that's what's worked well, this relationship-based selling. And in this instance, once again, it wasn't a case of doing more. She actually did less, but with more intention. And this is often what unlocks momentum. So what if the next level of success isn't about pushing, but about simplifying? Where is there opportunity in your day-to-day, in your work, in your business to simplify, to strip things back, to slow down? It's this notion of slowing down to speed up, honoring your energy, protecting your boundaries, realizing what would feel good to me, what would feel fun here, what would feel easy. Because those are so often, if not all the time, the answer to greater success. So I hope that this has given you a bit of a reset, not a kind of, I need to hustle harder to create more success sort of realization, but let's make this feel good again. Let's create ease. Let's open up spaciousness, time to think, time to step back, time to get creative, to think differently. If there's one thing that I'd love for you to take away, it's this. You don't need to do more to be more. More is not the answer. The way you speak to yourself, the tiny habits, the routines, the rituals, the boundaries, all of these tiny shifts that you can make, not all at once, because that's not going to work, but introduce one or two this week and then build on that. Introduce one new tiny habit that's going to protect your energy, that's going to re-empower your mindset, that's going to celebrate the success that you are already creating. And then create another one the week after. Because if you're showing up for yourself behind the scenes and showing up during those times and no one's clapping, no one's like giving you a big pat on the back, but you're doing it because you know that it matters for you and you know that it's making you feel good, this is where you unlock long-term success. And if this episode landed, I'd love for you to let me know. Share it with a friend, tag me wherever you're listening, at Nicola Charlotte Coaching. Leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube. Let me know about your tiny habits and what's landed for you in this episode. Even if it's one mindset reframe or one realization, one aha moment, I would love for you to share it with me because it's helpful for me to know, and it's also inspiring because I can bet that there's so many reframes that I've not even thought of. So it's like a space to help each other have these realizations and hold each other accountable. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to be the first to get the weekly episodes. I hope you have a really good rest of your day. And remember, it's not about doing more. You are already full of ideas, wisdom, knowledge. I can guarantee that. It's now about implementing and executing the knowledge within you and realigning with your definition of success. Because as we know here, it's not luck. It's doing the work, it's showing up, it's the discipline, and it's staying aligned to your values and ultimately what matters most to you in your world. Thank you so much for listening. I will catch you in the next episode. Lots of love. Bye.